Yeah, I guess I'll continue. I think fashion can be so empowering. I was thinking about this when I read over the questions last night. I didn't want to just focus on how fashion has been suffocating for me, in the sense of from a young age, how suffocating what I could wear could be, and how it's still this really complex and nuanced relationship, because whenever I'm thinking of an outfit, hand in hand goes in safety, and I'm really cautious to keep on bringing that up, but then I'm also these are exact conversations that need to be reinstated and retold every single time that daily violence is a thing for trans femme bodies that aren't having safety in that sense. But I think empowering is those moments when you're for me, okay, I'll give an example instead of just waffling. For me, it's getting in a group of your trans friends, right? Getting in a group of your trans femme friends, and you're all kind of outside the binary, and you spend an hour and you put on some blasting tunes in your room, and you're doing your makeup with each other, and you're trying on outfits, and you take boss-ass selfies, and then when you feel great enough, if you want to, you feel, okay, we'll do option A, you don't want to go outside, you're let's hold on to this moment, let's not have the outside do anything to us. Let's go in our living room, if we got one, let's go in the hallway, walk around, take pictures, take selfies, post it on Instagram, have all your queer and trans friends tell you yes, you look baddest, you look like the second coming, this is great. And then if you decide, then go outside. That's how fashion is empowering, right? Because you're going out and you're saying fuck this. For so long I've been told that I can only go in top man and look at their boring ass clothes, and now I'm here redefining what fashion is for me. It's so empowering. Fashion isn't my gender, and I hate reducing. I think when I'm doing performance art, it's really dangerous that people reduce my gender to my performance and see my fashion as a performance, and my gender therefore as a performance. No, my gender is the same when I'm in. My gender is not the same, but my gender in the sense that I still identify as non-binary when I'm in a t-shirt and jeans, in my PJs, or in a dress. But it's what fashion has been able to do to extend how I can feel, and that's where I think the power comes from, extending that feeling.
Thank you. Real.
Yeah, I think defining your own gender according to your own terms and having your own agency to do that is empowering, and fashion can be a vehicle for that. But I wouldn't say that fashion, for me, would be in itself an empowerment. I think it goes along with how you decide to use it.
Yeah, I think it's more to do with yourself, your identity, and who you are is obviously the primary focal point. Fashion again does act obviously as a voice that can empower you and can embody what you want to symbolise to the outside world, but as Travis said earlier, it's more about how you feel inside and obviously what you want to echo to the outside. Fashion acts as a forefront, it acts as a voice in a visionary way. It doesn't always have to, obviously, you don't have to say anything, it's just the way in which you wear the clothing, the kind of swag you have, as you said, and things like that. So for me, whenever I put on clothing, it kind of creates a mood, it kind of creates a voice that I don't necessarily want to speak, but people can kind of get their own interpretation from what I'm wearing. And for me, it empowers me, it makes me feel amazing, it can create so many different emotions, and that's something that I love within fashion. But then there's the flip side, as you were saying, that people can embody you by what you're wearing and forget that actually you are you are an actual individual behind the clothing, and there is more to you than just the clothing. So for me, that's what it is.
Yeah, I'm really feeling that second to Travis and Tana. I guess you've all touched on it actually. Especially, like I said, in terms of my presentation, that those things are often reduced to one and the same, but also misreduced and misread, and it's partially a testament to the kind of binary spaces that we still are being colonized by, whether we want to be or not. Because I also feel the beginning of like Travis's option A, for example, getting dressed either with people or to go to people that I know are like-minded and like dressed or whatever. If we share similar aesthetics, but then like leaving the house and then often being like misread, often in those same spaces. So I'm not even talking about like normative, white heterosis patriarchal spaces like that is the world, that is specifically England. But like in terms of like how fashion reads into desire, not just for yourself but for other people, I've been sometimes specifically lately feeling a little bit like robbed in a sense and disappointed in some of the spaces in my communities, like Cutie Park or Black, ostensibly radical communities where like bow tie still equals X, and then I try to say, well no, I just like I like it, and that's even on like thinking about gender. But I think parts of the erasure, or parts of maybe my laments from what Montana was saying, of like the fact that fashion can be not something that requires a voice, is I feel like when I walk around, you know, like if you go to an art exhibit or a museum and it has a little like placard there that's like, this is from this, and like it means this, and it's from the 3rd century of whatever place that we stole from, and I sort of want it to be, I feel like I need that, and it's kind of a bummer. So I don't know if that's a testament to like me not like working my own relationship to fashion more efficiently, but like I don't know how to like walk around with a placard that said like, my grandfather was of the Windrush generation and was literally on a boat and like dressed in this certain way, and was one of the people that also showed me actually a lot about femininity and softness and like self-embracing and potential and possibilities, and I read a lot about like Black liberation and Black dandies and like what that meant in its time, like in its own moment in the 18th and 19th century, about Black liberation and Black literacy and Black abolition movements, and all of that sort of manifested in my desire to put on this bow tie, as well as I think I look cute and I think it's fly. Like there's that fun and there's that self-desire and desire for self-expression as well, but I really wish that those two things were not like pulled apart. And that's not to be too academic about it, right? Like it's never just about desire or fun or expression. It's also that you're trying to say something, even if it's just to yourself or your people.
And I just wanted to add to that, because I'm really interested in my work with textiles. I'm using textiles to tell a narrative and a story of a history or a history that's been either told or erased. So I really feel that in terms of how clothes carry memory and carry history and carry narratives with them. And I think that's what happens, or what tends to happen with fashion, is that it gets reduced to an aesthetic, just a purely aesthetic symbol, which can be fun and you can play with, but I'm really interested in how those textiles and those clothes can actually carry narratives, and trying to think about how that can happen visually. In the image that was shown of me with the sari that I printed, I've got images that were taken from archives to do with colonial migration, and I tried to incorporate that so that it's still aesthetic, but it can carry that narrative in some way. And I think a lot of misreading happens because that lack of being able to carry stories and carry narratives.